Okay, what are we going to talk about today on Spring Hauler Farm? Well, it's a subject that's coming up real soon across most of the Midwest. It's going to get cold next week. Today is actually New Year's Eve, last day of 2024, and right now it's in the low 40s and it's windy, so it's not really all that cold. Some people might think that's really, really cold, but for people who are outside a lot and live in this area, not that bad. But we're going to talk about staying warm when it gets cold, how to stay warm in different conditions, and things you can do to help keep yourself warmer. Little things as well as big things. First thing I want to talk about is layering. Today's not all that cold, so I don't have a whole lot of layers on. But fashion has to take a back seat if you want to stay warm. If you want to look good, put on a nice fancy shirt and then a great big puffy coat over it, you're going to freeze to death. A thin layer and a thick layer, that's not going to keep you warm. I don't care how nice the coat is. It's not going to keep you warm. What keeps you warm? Layers. Layers, layers, layers. Always remember that. And you need your outer layers to be bigger than the size you normally wear because you want loose layers so they trap a little pocket of air inside of there, because that's what really keeps you warm, is that pocket of air. So you need to be able to keep that pocket of air inside there. And that is the secret. Like these, I got these actually on Temu, and I didn't think much of them at first because they're really, really thin here, but the hood is a little thicker. And for me, that works great because I'm wearing, you'll see, a t-shirt, not a real thick t-shirt, just a regular t-shirt, and then a button-up shirt, like a work shirt. It's also fairly thin, and then this. And I'm plenty warm today. Now, in a few days, we're going to have highs in the low 30s and lows in the teens. What'll I be wearing then? I'll be wearing what they call a union suit. That's like the top and the bottom piece of long johns, only it's one big piece. You've probably seen them in old westerns and stuff. Those things are great. You don't want to wear them in the house. Maybe you do. Some people do. I don't like to put them on until I'm going outside because I get too hot in the house and then I sweat and I come outside and I'm all wet and I get cold. That's another trick. Don't overdress inside because then when you get outside, you're going to get cold. And don't overheat your house because then you get used to the warm, and when you come outside, it feels even colder. Now today, you'll see I'm just wearing pants and shoes and socks. When it gets colder, out come the boots. And like I said, the long johns, the union suit, what I like to wear, all one piece. Otherwise, long johns, you're constantly pulling them up because they slide down on you. And that's not comfortable. It's not conducive. It's a pain in the neck is what it is. But on a day like today, it's not really all that cold. I could probably do without this layer and still be okay. And the nice thing about layered clothes, if you see here, I've got the outside one just barely buttoned, and I could probably unbutton it and I'd still be fine. This one's buttoned up a little more, but that way it breathes a little bit so you don't overheat. And if you overheat and you sweat, then you're wet, then you're cold. So you're noticing a trend here about what I'm talking about. Layers, stay warm, but not too warm. And the nice thing about this, if you start working and you get hot, you can unbutton this, get a little hotter, you take this off, and you still got two more layers underneath. You get cold, you put it back on. It's very flexible. But you're not going to win any awards at dinner parties. Sorry. That's just the way it is. If you want to be warm and comfortable, you're probably not going to be attractive. You look at people who work out in the cold all the time. That's the first thing you'll notice. They're not usually dressed in a very attractive manner, but they're comfortable. And to me, that's more important. Being comfortable and warm is way more important than looking good. Now, yeah, there are those times when you have to go to formal occasions. You can still wear layers. Put an A shirt underneath your dress shirt. That gives you a layer. Wear a jacket over a jacket. You can still get 2, 3, 4 layers. Ladies, with a dress, you can wear a pair of leggings underneath the bottom if it's a long formal dress. You can still wear something underneath the top. Gives you 2 layers plus a coat. A lot of things you can do. Another trick. People in the wintertime use a lot of hand cream because their hands dry out. But if you use hand cream before you go outside, your hands are going to have that cream on them. It's going to keep your hands cold. So use the hand cream at night before you go to bed so it's soaked in thoroughly by the time you go outside in the daytime. then your fingers will stay warm. If you're not like me, wear gloves. A lot of people wear gloves generally until it gets down into the low 20s, or if I'm handling big pieces of wood or metal, I'm fine without gloves. My fingers don't usually get all that cold when I'm working. Now, if you're standing around, yeah, gloves are a necessity. See, there's just all these little tricks you can use. Now, me, I've got to keep my ears covered. My head doesn't really get cold. My body doesn't get all that cold. My ears, they have to stay covered. Otherwise, I'll get a bad earache and then I'll really be sad. So I keep my ears warm. I've got a thing that goes around my head and leaves the top open. Not really earmuffs, but sort of like earmuffs. But usually I wear a hoodie. Now, if I'm going to go out and it's really cold, and especially if it's really windy, I've got what they call a baklava. It's like a stocking hat, but it also covers your neck all the way around. Those things are wonderful. If you don't have one, get one. You will not get cold in one of those things. But you could also wear a stocking hat and a scarf. It does the same thing. Keeps your neck warm, keeps your head warm, and your ears. Your face, not much you can do about your face. The one I've got has a face mask that comes up over my mouth and nose, but I don't really like wearing that because it fogs up my glasses. And that's a pain in the neck. So, it's your choice. It's your body. But if you want to stay warm and comfortable, layers, layers, layers. They also have those things you can put in your pocket that stay hot for a few hours. And if you're going to be outside all day, especially if you're not going to be working hard and moving around, because usually when you're moving, you stay warm. But if you're going to be outside not moving around much, you might want a pair of those in your pockets to keep your hands warm. You can throw a pair in your boots, keep your feet warm. And that's another thing. When you buy boots, make sure you get them a size big, because that extra air space in there, that's what keeps your feet warm, and it lets blood flow into your feet. You wear constricting clothes or constricting shoes, it slows down blood flow. That makes you cold. That's another thing to keep in mind. There's a lot of little things like that that you can do to help stay warm when it's cold out. Wind is your worst enemy. So if it's really windy and you're outside, you might want to have your outer layer be some kind of a windbreaker, something that blocks the wind. They're a pain in the neck, I know, but they do help. They do help keep you warm. And then like this right here, you got the strings here. You can pull this down, cinch it down tight over my head if I wanted to. Don't really feel the need right now because until that little gust came, it's staying where it's supposed to go. The wind's coming from behind me. So I just keep my back turned to the wind. Another one of them little tricks. Don't stare into the wind and complain your face is cold. Turn around if you can. You might have something going on you can't. And these are all common sense things, but I thought I'd share them with people so that you don't get cold. If you're going to go outside and do woodworking and stuff, layers are essential. Because I wear this, I'll wear a dress like this when I go down into the woods. And I fire up the saw and start cutting. Off comes the outer layer. And I cut some more. I might even take off the next layer, be out there with a t-shirt in 40-degree weather. But if you're working hard, you're going to stay warm. There's an old saying in woodworking, when you're cutting firewood. It warms you when you cut it, it warms you when you split it, and it warms you when you burn it. You get heated up 3 times by it. And that's very true. Very true indeed. So hopefully some of these tips and tricks have helped you out. Hopefully you can put them to use in your life. Always remember, style takes a back seat when you're staying warm. And keep in mind too, when you're going places in your car, you never know when your car might break down. When your car breaks down, guess what? It doesn't throw heat, and you're going to get cold. And you might be in a situation where you have to walk. It's always a good idea to bring, even if you're going to a formal event of some sort, bring something warm in your trunk or under the seat that you can put on before you have to go somewhere. A pair of good boots, a pair of good socks. I don't recommend big, thick socks because they make your feet sweat and then your feet get cold. And they generally bind up in your shoes because you're wearing the same size shoes you always wear. And you're wearing socks that are 3 times thicker. You need bigger shoes to make that comfortable. Loose and layered. That's the thing to remember. Loose layered. And you don't want big, puffy, thick layers because then you can't move. You're all puffed up like that kid from the Christmas story. You know, you don't want that. You want loose, thin layers. Then you can take off if you need. You can put on if you need. You don't get bound up. You can move around freely. Just some things to think about when you're out and about in the wintertime, when it's cold out. When it gets really, really cold, you get down into below zero and the wind is blowing. You might have 4 or 5 layers on, but you'll be warm. Remember, the outer layers need to be, like I wear 2X on the inside, but generally I buy 3X because I like things to be loose. And then the outer layers are 3X. These are 4X, just so that they have plenty of movement, plenty of room. I don't like to be tight and bound up. And if your clothes are tight, you're going to get cold because you need that layer of insulation. What the clothes do, they don't really keep you warm. They trap the air inside. If they're too tight, they don't have room for any air. You're going to get cold. That's just the way it is. Loose layers. That's the key to staying warm in cold weather. So if you haven't already, please give us a thumbs up. Please subscribe. Get your friends to subscribe. We're working on monetizing. We got the hours. We need the subscribers. So thank you very much for watching, and share it with your friends. And remember, loose layers keep you warmer. Thanks again.